Starting the live stream right now. Just a few seconds to load.
Try and turn it volume up on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Buckley's absent. Mr. Brooks, video. Mr. Griffey,
Here.
Mr. Meehan,
Here.
Mr. Nail.
Here.
Also have Chief Dirk here. We bring the video.
Next item will be a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. Public comment. Has anybody sent anything in, Ryan?
No.
Report of officers, CFO report.
Good evening. My report starts on page 4. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, the HHS, the CAERES funding through HHS, they have released a third phase of that. So we've applied for that. I've sat through a couple of webinars on how they're going to calculate it, but they don't really explain that. So what they asked for was the first 2 quarters of 2018 and 19's revenue and expenses. Basically just a comparison of how much our revenue declined and how much our expenses increased. And they're going to use that to calculate the payments. So, excuse me, I think there's 20 billion left in that phase. Along with that, there's reporting requirements. So the 82,000 that we got before, when we first got that money, they said anything over 100,000 would have to report. Now they say anything over 10,000. So that reporting window, I believe it opens January 15th, is the first time we can report, and it's due by February 15th. So there'll be some reporting on that. We're also still waiting on insurance renewals for property and casualty and health insurance. As soon as we get some of that, we'll start on the budget process. So the bank balances on page 4 are the 22nd versus the 8th. Anybody have any questions on that? That money did get moved for Unit 12 ambulance replacement. So you'll see that difference there in the ambulance vehicle replacement account.
Yes.
Page 5.
Mrs. Lubrine, on page 4, before you move on, Central Bank of Sedalia 2.9, does that include the 1.1 in the CARES Act funds?
Yes. Yep. Any other questions on that? Page 5 is the cash reserve analysis. It's down about a week, and just like every month, the second meeting it's down. The first meeting usually it's up. The timing of sales tax revenues. Pages 6 through 8 are the check register. And we have any questions on any of those transactions? I went ahead and included the credit card statement. Last meeting, I had included the wrong one. I included the month before. So this is actually the September statement. Anybody have any questions on any of those charges? Just 12 through, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was late in asking my question. On the credit card,
Go ahead.
I know being associated with a different company, we had to refill out a lot of paperwork to maintain our credit cards and everything. Have did we have to do that here, and has that process been completed?
Say that again, I'm sorry, you broke up at the beginning there.
Did we get information from Central Bank Card Services to update the accounts? And have to fill out new documentation, submit to them?
No,
3 days?
no. Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, well, you already got it. Okay, thank you.
Page 12 through 14 are the bills. 12 is just the summary. Anybody have any questions on any of those?
This one may be for the chief, but on page 11, we've got 5 times 137.68 to Baymont Inn in Jeff City. That was for training, I assume?
Yes, that was the.
Yes, that was for the FTAP training.
Tell me what-
Field training evaluation program. It was in my last report.
And you reported that last week? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And that's also what the Cole County Emergency Medical Service, what that bill is for the training as well.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. That's the end of my report.
Thanks, Jamie.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'd take a motion to approve the outstanding bills.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to make sure you're with me and I'm with you. I had lost previous connection.
Yep.
Thank you.
Chief report.
All right, Chief, that's on page 15, right after Jamie's. Starting with buildings, the air scrubbers were installed at the stations. Some people say they can smell a little bit of difference in the air. I don't notice that much, but they are all up and running. We have contacted, is it Ryan, can you provide any update on the generator? I don't really have.
Myers Plumbing, talked to them on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember which day, but they have ordered all the parts and pieces, so we're just waiting to get it scheduled once everything comes in. So should be getting work on that fairly soon, rather than pickups.
And, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, you said ordered all the parts and pieces, and the last time I understood that they were not available or whatever, so are they sure they're gonna be able to get them to do the work, I guess?
They're not 100% on that, so
Okay.
they're going to let me know as soon as they know.
Okay, so we're still not up to total speed yet, because they don't have the parts.
So we actually feel like here's something from, so,
Okay, thank you.
I just kind of got it as a running item in my report.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it seems like.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
So,
if I may have a point of order with regard to the generator. I'm going through the same frustration I think the remainder of the board is. And I reviewed the agreement we had with the purchase of that particular generator. And if we recall, there was a significant difference in the exact model of generator with another bidder. And we wondered why. And I kind of looked, and this particular entity we went with specifically said at the bottom, it's our responsibility. And that kind of made me think about not calling them and getting them involved. So. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Like I said, I just put that on there as a running. If there's any updates, we'll provide the board with them. Station 5, Windsor's been funding some improvements down there. They have accepted a bid on replacing all the gutters on the exterior of the actual quarters building. Obviously, the ones on the bay are fine. They rebuilt and improved the east entrance. If you've ever been down there, it looks like there's a little kind of a hut leading down into the walk-in basement. And one of the reasons we were having so many problems was it was really open to debris getting down in there, clogging up the drain, that we were running over the edge of the foundation and getting in the basement. So I anticipate that will be much better now that that's on there. They did also replace the hot water heater, basically because of age. It was about 26 years old. So they went ahead and put a slightly bigger one in there. We have had zero problems with it. So that's running nice. And hopefully save us a little bit on our utility bill, probably being a little newer unit. Education, Justin has coordinated a visit from the mobile University of Missouri Sim Lab. That's being held the 17th of November. They've invited some other agencies down and they'll coordinate us, to keep us socially distanced and all. But it is a very intensive simulation lab. For those of you who weren't here last time they did it, they usually come down, they try to come down annually, if not more. But they have all the high definition mannequins that respond and talk to you and change colors, and their pupils dilate and they sweat and they make noises and they talk back to you if you ask questions. It's very, very interactive. They've got it in a mobile unit, so they're bringing that down there on the 17th. So we'll have an opportunity for all our crews to go through there on a training day, which I'm definitely looking forward to that. We're continuing to develop the field training evaluation program, and that's going to cover everything from HR concerns to hiring new employees to students who cycle through here from other schools. As far as our field training officers are concerned, it really gives us a comprehensive path to date of hire until date of release to full duty on the street by yourself, throwing you the keys, basically. I'm really looking forward to see what Justin has on that. Once he gets it all ironed out, I think I'll probably ask him to come over and give the board just a short presentation on it, because I think it's really going to improve the quality of people that we get through that process and help assure that we're not hiring people and then immediately losing them. So help out with employee retention as well. I'm really sold on it. I think it's a good program. We'll be doing training on the new vents beginning in November. We've had bits and pieces show up. They said once we start getting little parts for them, the vents won't be far behind. So I still anticipate them to be here mid-November, maybe the second or third week in November. And the word from the crews is everybody's really looking forward to those new vents, those available. So I will certainly let the board know when those come in and we start doing training on them. I anticipate if everything goes on track and stays on track, that we'll be actually placing those new ventilators on all the trucks the 1st of December in service. So the Zoll vent purchase update is what I just gave you. This is we've got some back orders of some different medications. This is basically just an update on supplies here. Our gloves, something was brewing a few months ago about gloves potentially being the next shortage item. They're not terrible, but we're not moving on them. N95 masks are still a problem. We're down to about, I believe, around 600, 500 to 700 right now. Kind of hard to tell exactly where we're at because they're all dispersed on the trucks and the stations, but we're using quite a few of them. So that kind of segues into the CAERES Act funding thing that I have for you later. Cleaner PPE is on back order for multiple months, so we're transitioning to diluting this quaternary ammonia in spray bottles to be used. Obviously making sure everybody's using it safely, and the purple top whites are basically what we use to disinfect surfaces. So if you see like that one right there, that's not for so much your hands, it's more for surfaces. There's a blue one, a blue top one that's safe for your skin and so forth. So there's different kind of cleaners, and as you can imagine this year, all cleaners are hard to get. The ambulance scrubbers, we are coordinating with AEV. The idea is to get them down here to install them in Sedalia. Otherwise, we're going to have to leapfrog shuttle back and forth up to Columbia. So we're hoping to get them to come down, if not do them all, at least do maybe half or a third of them at a time and get those in here within the next couple of weeks. So they are not in just yet. Unit 1, 7, and 12. Unit 12 was the new unit purchase. Wanted to update the board on that. It's fully in service. It's placed in the medic 10 position, which that means it's got our captain runs on it. And generally, the captain runs with one of the special duty officers. So we do have a crew who's going to keep close attention to that truck and report any problems with it. We have had several units going in and out of Shelby's. Last week, we've been down to as little as 0 backup units. I think we have 2 that are officially out of service over at Shelby's right now for various problems. I've got some information from that, but it's we have been having a little more issues with maintenance on some of the older trucks. The newer trucks, looking through September's report on that from Shelby's, just standard maintenance issue on those, oil changes, tires and whatnot. So the older trucks are starting to cost us a little bit more when it comes to maintenance. We had a broken exhaust manifold on unit 7. Manifold wasn't broke, the bolt was broke off the manifold, so that took, anybody who's ever broke a bolt off knows quite a while to get fixed. But, that is the end of my report. I've got some agenda item / unfinished business items that's in the next couple pages. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Are there any questions for the chief?
Yeah, that unit 1's got the service, the engine light. What was that? Is it?
Unit 1, this one just came up. I believe that was going to be multiple. I think it had some brake issues, was what the service was. We ended up replacing the disc rotors, calipers, and Roy, are you online right now?
Yep, I'm here.
Unit 1 went over with
Sensors that needed to be replaced.
just a sensor.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
And how old was that unit?
Unit 1 is a 2013. That's one of our original.
This one we replaced with our next ambulance.
Should be, yeah. Yeah, it's one of the very first ones we got. We had, it's what we call a Warrior, and it's generally backlined, reserve unit, so.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the medical director's report.
Mine, I got it now. One of the things that has improved our situation here in the area, the hospital in Warrensburg has opened up what's called a geriatric behavioral unit for people 55 years and older, for some of these psych patients. And we've had occasion to transport a couple of our folks from Bothwell over there. Unfortunately, we're still in a situation where someone, a third party, assigns the bed, and it depends on which facility has beds available. So we haven't been able to utilize it a great deal. But even with those 2 patients, it was better than driving to Kansas City or Nevada or 200 miles away to get a psych patient a bed. So it's a breath of fresh air for folks in this area, for EMS agencies to not have to drive quite so far as we had been. One thing that I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well. There's it's a 3M half face respirator with a P100 filter, and they're less than $25 a unit. I have another agency, one of your neighbors, that has been using these for long distance transfers on COVID patients. And with these masks, they have not, at this point in time, had any of their staff come down with COVID from transporting these patients. So if some of our PPE, and particularly the N95s, if they're becoming problematic, I will send you the information on it, Eric, to procure them if you want it. But they appear to be a good, safe device that will help protect our people when they're transferring COVID patients, either to Columbia or to Kansas City or wherever, when you have a long distance transfer. So that's pretty much all I have in the way of information tonight. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Do you know if, are they having to replace those cartridges every trip, and are they assigning those are they assigning those out to staff, or they just stay on the truck, or?
No, they're assigning them to staff, I believe. I don't think they're making people wear other people's masks. And the filters are good for like 40 hours of continuous wear.
Thank you.
Okay.
Committee reports, strategic planning committee.
Strategic planning, we've got one of the pieces of paper on the desk I left for you gentlemen tonight, is a questionnaire that I would ask the board members fill out, and it's very, it's not meant to be a specific funding thing. It's just kind of to get the individual board members feeling on where we're at, where we're going, what do you think our strengths and weaknesses are. This is one of the core foundational things of getting a strategic plan together, is how do we develop our goal, and we do that based on what you gentlemen want for the community. So I handed those out tonight. I don't have a due date or anything, like I said, not homework necessarily, but that's what we've got on those questions. I believe there's 8 of them out there, and you know, there's no right or wrong answers. It's just they're fairly self-explanatory. So I handed those out to you tonight. We do not have a meeting scheduled as of yet for the next strategic planning meeting. Did we lose Mr. Fritz?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I didn't know if you had anything, you and I had talked about any additional members or anything for that strategic planning committee. Were you prepared to talk about that?
No, I think I would really invite, you know, some work that goes into the questionnaires that you passed out. I reviewed and it initiated some thoughts for me. But I invite any members that are interested in the strategic planning thing to hook up. Let's get this thing rolling. You know, it's obvious with, you know, what's occurred with me that any of us could be interrupted by the ability to get together person to person. So if necessary, we can start some meetings with the regard to the strategic planning committee by Zoom as well.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to unfinished business, CAERES Act.
Jamie, did you have anything on this before I get into?
No, I think you've got it. All the list is there of everything updated.
Did have some discussions amongst the entire command staff about our priorities for this list, what needed to be at the top, what we could push down to the bottom. And the consensus of everyone that we spoke to, the entire command staff, as well as Jamie and Roy and myself included, was to move the PAPRs up in the list. These are not necessarily like Gus was talking about with the masks. Those are more of a replacement or an alternative to an N95. The PAPRs, you can't really get a great view of them there on page 16, but it's a hood. It's a hood where you've got a shield that comes down in front of your entire face, and it runs positive pressure filtered air through the entire time you're with the patient. They have a really good battery life on them. And they are, the entire unit is, you can decon the whole unit. It's not a disposable, no, there's no disposable parts on other than maintenance filter changes every now and then. We've had some issues with, and this is, if you see on the top of page 16, wearing a mask, as we've all realized since March of this year, makes it really hard to communicate. And if you're deaf like me, it makes it doubly hard. If you normally read lips, but the problem is we're seeing people when they're at their most vulnerable, at their most frightened state, and you can't tell a sneer from a smile underneath the mask. So we've actually had incidents where patients became physically combative because they were so frightened of what was going on with them at the time. If you take somebody who's hypoglycemic or has sepsis or some other disease process that's causing them to not think clearly, it really puts them at risk and our crew at risk. So that alone, I think, along with the, well, not alone, but with the infection control benefits of these PAPRs is why we've decided to kind of move it up the list on our priority list. There's some other bullet points as far as why they're needed, why they're good. I think the communication, the infection control properties are great, but as Dr. Gus was saying, when the hospital places these transfers, not just psychiatric transfers, but even some of the medical transfers, when now we're operating with hospitals running at or near capacity, our transfers are going further and further out. We went to St. Louis, we went to down towards the Boot Hill, we went to governmental on a pretty regular basis. And trying to communicate and have that stuff strapped to your face for that long of time is really awkward for the patients. It's really uncomfortable for the paramedics and the EMTs that have to deal with that. So the crew comfort and just the stress of having that mask on is alleviated. These PAPRs give you a nice cool breath of fresh air. If you're like me and you grow a beard just by thinking about it by 3 o'clock every day, they also accommodate for any facial hair. You might have issues with getting a seal on another mask, but longer transports, they do have superior infection control measures. A lot of the N95s, and I want to put this out there because I think as the public, you guys probably see a lot of different products on the shelves when you go to the store, wear this, wear that mask. There's an N95 mask that has a little exhalation port on it, and I wanted to kind of warn everybody against them. They help you when you breathe in, but they don't help the public when you breathe out because that's unfiltered air coming through that exhaust port on some of those N95s you see with a little valve on the front. So be wary of any of those. Just my little PSA I wanted to throw out there. We did talk to somebody who was using these the other day, another agency that was using them, and said they were able to get batteries for them through a third-party vendor, which for example, life pack batteries, the vent, the pumps, all those have a very proprietary battery cell in them. These, I was told somebody went and got Granger replacements for them. So if the battery does go kaput on them, you can easily replace those as well. The decon, we're doing decon just as we always have been. And like I said, these can be sprayed down and wiped down just like normal. So the PAPRs have moved up the list. Of course, we're needing ambulances. Always going to be needing ambulances, so that's kind of nothing new there. And then number 2 would be the Lucas device and the binder lifts 3 and 4. I think I said in the last report, if we had to settle for any of the binder lifts, it would be the bariatric ones for our larger patients. But right now, tonight, I basically wanted to provide the board information on those PAPRs. Like I said, our command staff and myself felt that was probably the most needed item on that list. Where we're at right now. Again, there's some more information on there. If you have any questions about them, I might be able to answer them. The vendor tells me they've been shipping pretty well, but as we're seeing nationwide spikes in cases, much more frequent COVID transports by EMS, I anticipate the lead time in these will be pushed out even further. Boundtree is who our bid from 1409 is. 1405 each. That's a 2 each for 12 ambulances, 1 each for the command vehicles. So we saved a little bit of money getting a new quote from them. But again, I think, you know, if it's something we want to act on, we'll probably have to do it fairly soon, or we're just going to be pushing it further and further out. It's unavailable like every other item of PPE in the year of 2020. So that's all I have.
Are there any? Yes.
Other than the batteries, is there something else that you have to keep buying?
Parts. I imagine after some time, the hoods wear out, but the hospitals use these pretty regularly. I think probably some pictures in the media of nurses wearing them in ICUs. To my knowledge, the hoods have a pretty good shelf life too. They last quite a while, and they're not a real fancy device. They hook up like a shop vac, and they're just a thin white, like type cloth with a plastic shield on the front. So there's nothing real amazingly expensive about them. I haven't heard of anybody wearing them out though, unless it's damaged.
It's not one for each employee.
No, sir. No, that would give us one on each, or two for each truck. So you'd have one for the EMT, one for the paramedic, and then put one on each command vehicle. Yeah. For a total.
But we'd have different people wearing the same.
Yes,
one.
but it would be deconned after every use, just like part of the truck and just part of the regular decontamination process. Yeah, that's a good question.
And Eric,
Yes, sir.
looking at my information here, what is the cost that we're looking at a piece?
$1,409.99.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's totaled out on page 17. Yeah, Jamie brought that out. The
Yeah,
total cost of that would be $39,420. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if there's no other discussion with regard to this recommendation from our administrator of the district, I'd like to make a motion that we purchase based on this quote, 27 units of the Pappers at a cost of $1,409.99 each.
Is there a second? Seeing there's no second, the motion will die due to lack of second. Annual 2020 audit.
On page 18, you have the information. I emailed that out several weeks ago. CHV is who was the low bidder when we bid out 2018 through 2020. And you can see the two bidders we had and their costs there on page 18. So with the additional funds we've received this year, it'll require a single audit. CHV is proposing $3,000 to $3,500 increased cost for the single audit portion. So in total, the audit fees for this year would be about $98.65 if we use the $3,500 quote. So that's still under the other next highest bidder on our audit fees. For 2020, WTA was at $16,320. So almost $10,000 higher. So it's just up to the board what you guys would like to do. If you want to put this out for bid, we'll have to put it out for bid for 2021 going forward, regardless. So it's up to you guys, but I do know we need to get it out if we're going to do that so that CPA firms have time to plan this since we need it by June.
What is your recommendation, Jamie?
I would recommend we stay with CHV since, you know, the next highest bidder when we bid it was $16,320. And even with the single audit, we're going to be at, what did I just say? $98.65.
And based upon CFO's recommendation and the numbers that support that, I so move that we take her recommendation and move forward.
Do
I'll
we have a
second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Annual banking bid.
So the last time the banking bid was done was in January of 2017. And our resolution on bidding says that we're going to bid that every 4 years. So it's about time for that as well. So I just want to know how the board would like to proceed with that. You just want me to put it in the paper and get bids for December or the end of November?
Yes, I believe so.
I mean, personally, I think you almost have to bid it out, you know. So,
So as far as timing wise, when would you prefer?
Whenever you need it by, I don't think it really matters to us.
Okay, I'll try to get that out in the paper and get some bid specs put together.
Okay. New business, do we have any announcements? If not, I'll take a motion to go into closed session pursuant to RSMo 610.021, section 2.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, and then it'll be roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman, absent. Mr. Fritz?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
yes.
And Mr. Green? Yes.